Well, welcome to a second Weekend Sportscast this week. It's the second of our Le Mans preview shows. Part 1, also available to download or to listen online with Stephen Kilbey and myself, talking about the 23-car hypercar entry. This episode, though, again with Stephen, Marshall Pruitt on IndyCar duty at the moment, is going to be looking at LMP2, LMP2 Pro-Am, both of which have 8-car entries, 16 of the Orica 07s at Le Mans this year, and the 23-car GT3 class that makes its debut this year at 24 Hours of Le Mans. But before we get into the show, let's hear from our sponsors.
Time to say a big thank you to our show partners on the Marshall Pruitt podcast, starting with Pfaff Technologies, build-to-print composites manufacturing company. They're specializing in medium to large-scale automotive, motorsports, and military applications. Visit pfafftechnologies.com. It's P-F-A-F-F technologies.com to learn more about their services and how they can benefit your business. Next, it's the Justice Brothers, makers of premium additives, lubricants, and cleaners, been servicing the automotive and motorsports industries for more than 85 years, with victories in all the biggest North American motor races, including the Indianapolis 500, the 24 Hours of Daytona. The Justice Brothers products are truly race-proven. Learn about their vast history and range of offerings at justicebrothers.com. If you're fond of awesome motor racing collectibles, including Pfaff Motorsports McLaren gear and goodies, pay a visit to torontomotorsports.com. And finally, we have a new online merchandise home for the podcast, thepruittstore.com, for all the show stickers, models, racing memorabilia I'm trying to sell and put towards our fund to buy a house is now live and rocking. thepruittstore.com.
So the 2024 24 Hours of Le Mans looms. We're just about to pack up the car and head towards Portsmouth and crossing the channel to our favourite little town in the middle of France. And Stephen, this supporting cast, beyond the astonishing 23-car hypercar class, still warrants plenty of attention from those of us that love the fact that the 24 Hours of Le Mans isn't a race, it's 4 races on the same track at the same time.
Oh yeah, GT3 is just getting going, isn't it? We're just starting to see what that class can produce in terms of action. LMP2, we know from years past, can provide some of the best door-to-door action of the race. And yeah, once again, we're going to be going down these lists like we did in Hypercar and struggling to pick holes in any of these lineups and any of these teams because, yeah, yet again, there's a massive reserve list for a reason, and that is because there's plenty of talent out there, and a lot of them are on this list.
Well, look at it. I mean, WC fully populated this year. No space for LMP2 this year, of course, for a bit with the expansion in both the GT and, of course, Hypercar. ELMS oversubscribed. Asia Le Mans Series pretty full. IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship full. And we're seeing a lot of that reflected in the quality of what we're seeing with the supporting cast. Let's run through them in class order. 8 in LMP2. Not LMP2 Pro-Am, but LMP2. So that is for the 3 driver crews that do not feature a bronze ranked driver. It's the 9 from Proton Competition, the 10 from Vector Sports, the 22 from United Autosports, previous winners of course. The first pro entry from Nielsen Racing, the 24. 25 Algar Pro Racing, the reigning champions in the European Le Mans Series. EDEC Sport, previous ELMS champions, the 28 car. Inter-Europol Competition, last year's winners of course in P2. And Cool Racing, winners in LMP2 Pro-Am in the European Le Mans Series last year. They're the 8. It is all Oricas with the stellar little Gibson 4.2 litre engine that's become so much part of the soundtrack of endurance racing worldwide. Let's run through some of these driver squads. Proton, which is the number 9 car, I believe, which is going to be also liveried with Iron Lynx. Matteo Capietto, Jonas Reed, 3rd generation racer with Christian Reed now in team management and stepping back as a driver after last season. And Bent Fiscal, who has already made, I think, his GTP debut. Or is that going to happen at Watkins Glen? I think it might be Watkins Glen for Bent Fiscal. But Bent Fiscal, clearly the hammer man there. Proton Competition finding their feet in LMP2. Not expecting a class-leading performance from that trio, but Jonas Reed finding speed, making fewer mistakes. It's a big, big platform to launch from. Raced last year, of course, in GTE Am, and I'm afraid crashed out of the race. It'll be interesting to see just how that team copes with things. Vector Sport, a team that's had its problems, not least of which was, I gather, a pretty substantial shunt in testing just last month, which saw their car needing significant repair. Let's hope that's not, harm their cause any. They will arrive with their regular silver driver, Ryan Cullen, Stefan Riquelme from Monaco. And Stefan, still a quick guy, and I think a previous winner with Alpine. I'll have to double check that one.
Yes,
but Patrick Pilet stepping in for Felipe Drugovich. And if you heard the part one of this preview, Drugovich stepping over into the Whelen Cadillac for this one. Pilet will be quick. Vector in need of a good result, I feel, at the moment. Between Vector and Proton, I'd have to say that I'd fancy the Vector trio to be perhaps ahead of those two, but there's no doubt about it. These are both teams that really do need a good result to launch their season.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And if you look at the two lineups, you just mentioned Patrick Pilet there. What's interesting about that is that he actually has an association with Vector Sport going back a few years, and is kind of tipped to be part of their hypercar lineup, had their program come together. So it's going to be interesting to see that now he's actually going to race with them, what he can produce in a lineup that includes a guy like Stefan Riquelme, who's had plenty of success, but back in P2 when it was very different back in the day.
Am I right? Drugovich could well have been a part of that as well?
Yep, could well have been a part of that as well.
So they're two people we could have seen aboard of Soto Fraschini, but no, won't. But we wait to see what happens with Vector Sport moving forward. They still retain the will to find their way back into hypercar. Third car in the order, the number 22 car from 2020 winners of this race, United Autosports, based up in Yorkshire, of course. And we were up there just a couple of weeks ago to have a look at their facility. Your first chance to see what sits behind the race side performance as you see from United Autosports. I think you'll agree it's very impressive.
Yeah, it takes up a substantial part of Yorkshire, doesn't it? It's enormous.
So that's a good thing. But it is an astonishing factory level facility for their contemporary GT LMP2 efforts. The historic racing business and restoration stuff there, storage of both their collection, Zach Brown's collection, and those of clients, and far, far more besides.
Oh my God! Yeah, I mean, to put it into perspective, listeners, to get to the LMGT3 cars, you have to trip over multiple Le Mans winning chassis,
Daytona winning chassis, Formula One,
World Championship winning chassis, and then in various stages of being.
Hang on a minute! Sorry, I've just kicked over a Le Mans winning trophy, and there's a few driver suits there. What's that guy? Oh, that's Alonso. There's Lando Norris.
Yeah, and remarkably, the only car that was covered and hidden was a Trabant.
It was indeed. It was. It is a spectacular place to go and see, and a real window on what it takes for success. But United Autosports, they field in their pro car Oliver Jarvis, world class by any standard, and just 2 years ago the overall IMSA drivers champion in DPI. He's joined by regular ELMS racer for the team, Bijou Garg from the United States, and he's the silver driver in this order. Has a lot to prove here, but this is a place to do it, and we'll have no better teammate helping on that journey than Oliver Jarvis. And we'll have a mighty yardstick for progress joining them, with the addition of an exciting talent, Nolan Seagull. Now, I've seen Nolan race in the Asia Le Mans series a couple of seasons back in LMP2, and I think he was with Inter Europol at the time, and had just got into the car, was being caught by the 99 racing car in the hands of Neil Jani. Jani toughed his way by, and I thought, and everyone thought, and I'm sure Neil Jani thought, that's that done, I'll go and find the next guy. Oh no, it wasn't. And Nolan Seagull beat him up for lap after lap after lap, and that is an exciting talent. It's currently somebody I've chatted to Marshall Pruitt about Nolan. I know there's a lot of excitement in the IndyCar world about his prospects. Watch this kid, because this could be one of those breakout drives here. If he gets the car underneath him, the track underneath him that he needs to show the talent,
he'll get the car underneath him at United.
Oh, he most certainly will. So don't count them out. Big challenge here is for Bijan Garg to step up to the challenge of Le Mans on his debut. It may be 2 debutants, but boy, oh boy, that is a trio to conjure with. Next up, Nielsen Racing, as we said, their very first pro class effort with a new livery for the team, celebrating their 10th anniversary year. Fabio Scherer from Switzerland, one of the reigning winners with Inter Europol last year, he joins the squad alongside...
Late addition.
Indeed. Alongside David Heimar Hansen, full season driver for the team. For what we just said about Nolan Siegel, just rinse and repeat with Kiffin Simpson.
Yeah.
So Kiffin, finding his feet, full season IndyCar gig this year, that was a big step for him, and he's not disgraced himself. But for me,
it's good in Indy 500.
He is. We talked about Fabio Scherer being reigning winner here at Le Mans. Well, Kiffin Simpson is the reigning European Le Mans Series champion.
Yeah.
With Algarve Pro Racing, and there's all sorts of shuffles between teams going on here. Where do we start? David Heimar Hansen, previous WC champion, has raced here in P2 a number of occasions as well as in GT. He's one of those non-pro drivers, although he's Silver, is a non-pro driver. He's got a big day job in tech, of course. But on his day, if he finds that the key factors are in the right place, is very impressive indeed. He's had a few years out of it until last year, and is beginning, I think, to find his best form again. And critically, he's enjoying it again. And I think he's going to be one to watch through this weekend. Fabio Scherer will feel he's got stuff to prove. He's not been a full season drive in this squad. Will want to show why he's got winning form. Remember taking that win with a broken foot last year and got run over by the Corvette. But for me, of the three, the one that I think is likely to light us up, both in the media room and in the TV booth, is Kiffin Simpson. He's another one that I think we're going to start to see some pretty spectacular times. And he's the one they're going to want in the car if it comes down to a gap needing to be closed or a gap needing to be opened. The Cayman Islander, I think, is going to be somebody we're going to be talking about for quite some time.
100%. And the most impressive thing about him, particularly during his European Le Mans Series title-winning campaign, was not his outright speed, it was his ability to stay consistent under pressure. And he really did take a lot of lessons from the likes of Alex Lynn, who was put in that car to mentor him.
And Alex, by the way, was very complimentary about his efforts through the season. And, that was a full team effort to take the European Le Mans Series title. We're going to come on, oddly enough, next to talk about Algarve Pro Racing, their number 25 car. Matthias Kaiser is the regular in that car together with Ollie Caldwell. You mentioned Alex Lynn, who's obviously on Cadillac duty this weekend, but he's replaced by Roman De Angelis, driver more familiarly seen in a GT car with Heart of Racing. But I think this indicates that Roman is very much there on the list of potential drivers next year in hypercar with Heart of Racing and their Aston Martin efforts. We know that there's been a P2 test program for some of those drivers, and I'm correct, I suspect it was an APR car that was part of that test. But that's a different looking 3-driver squad. Ollie Caldwell is an interesting one. I think Ollie has finally unlocked what this is all about. He has had, very early in his sports car racing career, a few fairly ordinary runs. Didn't really feel as if he was a good fit with the Alpine squad.
But the whole team just wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
Was it last year?
But somehow, coming here, and again, you mentioned Alex Lynn and his mentoring efforts. I think it's been the same here with Ollie. Just giving a bit of steel, just celebrating where it goes well, and not dwelling on where it doesn't go so well, and pushing forward with that team. And we're seeing a different Ollie Caldwell.
100%. And we talked in the hypercar preview about drivers who had come out of nowhere and just suddenly given you a performance that's made you turn your head and make think they've got a future. And it has to be said, Ollie Caldwell in the opening round of the ELMS this year, race that they almost won in the 25 group. He was so good early in that race, up against the likes of Ritomo Miata, a Super Formula champion.
And he's kept that form, which is great to see. Absolutely great to see. So with Roman De Angelis, an unknown quantity in a P2 car, Matthias Kaiser has been pretty solid in that car this season. Algarve Pro, clever, strategically, great on pit lane. If they can keep out of trouble, that may not be the most stark stare and the obvious driver trio to do well, but I'm not counting them out in any way, shape or form.
The car will be really well prepped, and that means so much in P2 where everyone's got the same equipment.
So next up, 28, the EDEX Sport Car, Richard de Geras, Paul Lafargue and Jean Van Uter. Paul Lafargue, the mainstay of course of that team. It's a family owned team by the Lafargue family. Richard de Geras, blistering single lap pace. I think still has more to show us in terms of his ability to deliver that consistently. But for me, the interesting addition here is Job van Uter. Now, Job, 2 years ago, we'd have been talking about him as being the next big thing for potential hypercar. He hasn't had that opportunity yet. But what we've seen is a new Job van Uter, a new, more mature Job van Uter, that doesn't feel the need to prove his talent at every single corner, which was where the issues were coming and where races that could have had great results didn't have great results. All of a sudden we've got somebody who's far more relaxed and team focused and result focused on behalf of the team, and I think that will pay them well.
He's matured so well.
And still a lovely bloke.
Yeah, just an amazing personality, but behind the wheel his driving has improved yet again, because he was one of those who had raw speed and then just needed a little bit of tweaking here and there to make sure that he was the full package, and I think he is now, and he's a real asset to that team.
Excellent stuff. 2 more to go in LMP2. The first of them is the defending winners here into Europol competition, the Racing Bakers, of course, from Poland, Vlad Lomko, Klemont Novalak, and Kuba I know this Miskowski, right. Kuba, the only one of our winners back in the same car this year, and he will be looking forward to having another crack at this one. Vlad Lomko beginning to show us the pace that we've long known that he's actually got, and I think will make a contribution here. For me, the exciting guy here, coming out of F2, Klemont Novalak, which, by the way, if and when you meet Klemont in the paddock, he will open his mouth and you'll think, but you're British. Speaks perfect English with an English accent, which threw me completely.
Does he really?
He does. It does. Absolutely remarkable. And they were so unlucky at Paul Ricard with a failure that cost them what should have been a win. I'm not counting these guys out at all. There was all sorts of cynicism about that win last year, and they went through that car with a literal fine-tooth comb and found absolutely nothing. And since then, we've seen a different inter-Europol competition. They are on their game, they are on the pace, they are in the mix for real results. They're winning LMP2 races. Won a race in Asia, should have won the race at Paul Ricard, and
they did
win the other car, wasn't it?
It did, the 43
car won, and it should have been a 1-2. But the team all of a sudden is showing signs of banging at the door. We've talked on this show before, Stephen, about the LMP2 super teams, and there's 2 or 3 members of that team that would, I'm sure, if I didn't say this, would stop me in the paddock and say, well, why aren't you mentioning us? We talked about Jota, we talked about Iron Links, Primo, we've talked about WRT, we talked about United, of course. We've now got to add others. Algarve Pro Racing, Cool Racing, and Inter-Europol has been the next class, if you like, the next batch, like Gremlins. But it's not like Gremlins.
Fair enough.
But they're now the ones knocking at the door to say, okay, if you've got that kind of budget, you've got that kind of ambition, we're the guys to go to. So that is Inter-Europol competition. But moving swiftly on to the last in this class, it is one of the others we just mentioned. It's Cool Racing, the 37 car. Now this, for me, I have to tell you, is my favourite for this class. Lorenzo Fluxer, from Spain. But then 2 absolute young guns. Ritomo Miata is a development driver for Toto Gazoo Racing, And Malte Jakobsen, we've said time and time again, the young Dane, now 20 years old, and already the reserve driver for Peugeot in hypercar. I'm struggling on pace alone to see much further beyond this trio for this class.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you sort of walked straight past Lorenzo Fluxer there, but for me, he's one of those what I like to call a hello driver. And you get that in ELMS because everyone's in the same kit.
Yep.
And you just chuck in all this talent and see who comes out on top. And start the season, I didn't really expect too much from him. And it was a bit of a, hello, Lorenzo Fluxer. He's pretty good.
He's pretty good.
He's really, really good. He was really impressive in that first race of the season, which they won at Barcelona. And what can you say about the other two? Malte Jakobsen, a teenager with a 30-year-old head. Not anymore. Was a teenager like us all, but so mature, so rapid, so highly thought of by everybody, including his rivals. I mean, he may be the star of the show in the class, and yet again he'll be knocking on the door of a hypercar drive if he has another big performance. And then Retan Miata, who's taken a little bit of time, I think it's safe to say, getting up to speed in P2, but in a series like European Le Mans, you can't expect to just turn up, no matter what you've won, and suddenly beat this class of guys who have been there time and time again, winning in Oreca's. So yeah, awesome lineup.
You're 1, 2, 3 in P2. I'm struggling to look beyond the 37. I'll be honest.
Yeah. For me, it's the 37. It never goes this way, but if you were going to go purely on paper, 37. I do think EDEC. I'm going to go EDEC 28, and then I'm going to go 25 Algarve Pro.
For me, 25 and 22 for the places. I think Bijoy Garga's got a big day ahead of him. But Nolan Siegel has got pace. Oliver Jobs has got pace. If Bijoy can just get consistent, get through his stints and start to learn and build his pace, I think they could have something very interesting there. And the 25 APR, simply, they're just a formed team. And I've ignored the 34 for the moment, but the 34 could be in there as well. But for me, I'm going to go 37, 22, 25.
No, I mean, I don't disagree with that. That could happen any day of the week.
That's P2. P2 Pro-Am, the other 8 Orecas. The AO by TF Level 14 car. That's AO Racing for the United States, TF Sport, of course, from the UK combining. United Autosports with the second car under the United Autosports USA for the 23. It is Duquesne team in the number 30, so a second car for Duquesne alongside the Isotta Fraschini they run in hypercar. DKR Engineering from Luxembourg. CrowdStrike Racing by EPR. Cool Racing with a second car. Panis Racing run this year by TDS Racing. And the 183, not the 83, from AF Corsa. It's working our way through that lot. And this is where we start to see some real names to conjure with. Number 14, for starters, it's Spike. It's the LMP2 Dragon. It's PJ Hyatt, the gentleman driver from the United States, who showed brilliant form in his introduction to P2 in the Asian Le Mans Series this year and has shown pace elsewhere as well. Alex Quinn from the UK and Louis Delatraz.
Who?
Yeah. I mean, the surprise is Louis is in a P2 car and not in a hypercar.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. But that's by dint of the fact he's an Acura driver in the United States and Honda aren't here yet. But PJ loves this race. Yeah. Loves this race. If he can keep his sensible head on and show us both the pace and the fighty nature, he really looks comfortable in these cars.
For me, he looks a different driver in a P2 car.
He does.
He does far more comfortable in it than he does
in a GT.
Trying to fight tooth and nail in a GT battle. Mega impressive in Asian Le Mans Series.
He was. He most certainly was. Alex Quinn, by the way, has been a bit of a surprise to me. He was. We first saw Alex. Yeah, it's okay, but then we've seen some real pace out of him, and that is going to be a great foil for PJ.
He will soak up some serious knowledge from Louis Delatraz that week.
Oh yeah.
Because Louis is just top dollar in every single aspect.
Louis just looks the whole package. He looks every single inch a professional driver with decades to go in his career. Okay, His second generation racer after his dad, ex-sports car racer and Formula 1 racer. And to be blunt, Louis Delatraz, absolutely top draw. Don't count out this being the first time, not an extinct animal, but a fantasy animal could win Le Mans. And by the way, their merch is going to sell out in seconds.
It's gone.
Right. Then we get to the 23. Bronze driver, Ben Keating. Well, reigning and last GT and champion. And by the way, all three of those drivers from the winning Corvette last year are racing this year. All three are in LMP2 Pro-Am, and all three are in different cars.
It's going to be... it's bragging right festival.
Yeah, it's Ben Hanley, who I think Ben gets quicker as he gets older.
He's like a fine wine. He just gets better and better.
You're going to start talking like Swiss Tony. It's like fine wine.
So no, you see, picking an LMP2 squad, Graham.
No, stop now. And then Felipe Albuquerque, Phil the Portuguese. So that again, Ben Keating, there's no words that Ben is the yardstick for bronze drivers in either GT or in LMP2. No doubt about it. He's beatable, but he's the yardstick. And no signs of that changing. We expect that car, by the way, to turn up with the Wins livery, so that's a second purple Orica.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh, the Spark truck. Next year.
Ben Hanley, who has got winning form in just about everything in LMP2. If he's not winning, he's certainly either on or close to the podium. And Felipe Albuquerque has won everything in an LMP2 car. And of course now is another man with a Acura effort in GTP. So there's another reason why Felipe Albuquerque is not in the hypercar class.
Well, him versus Delatraz in this race could be quite interesting, couldn't it, Graham?
Well, I mean, if we went no further, there's a great race for those two. There's not a lot there you could say is anything that looks even remotely close to being in the same league, county, or even state of ordinary. Those two, and it's Pro-Am. That's already fantastic.
Am I being way too overly ambitious and optimistic? Yes. But in saying the 23 is so potentially strong, it could feature in the overall P2 race.
Any of them could. Now, here's the thing. I was going to talk about this, which is, depending on how this race evolves, with weather, with the almost inevitable caution period safety cars, virtual safety car for the first time this year, of course, at Le Mans, then if you've got bronze drivers with the pace to stay on the lead lap, and we do. Okay?
Well, we've seen Ben Keating time and time again prove he's as quick, if not quicker, than silver drivers.
No, but here's the point. If they can stay on the lead lap, then there's nothing to say that we couldn't have multiple Pro-Am cars potentially in the mix. For the overall.
If he keeps it on the island and they use his time in the first half race, and then it's just, they're on the lead lap and it's Albuquerque and Hanley.
Well, let's put it this way. There is no way that Louis Delatraz and Felipe Albuquerque are going to be sitting there going, hang on, the guy behind me is in a full P2 car. You come by, mate. I'm not getting in the way.
Yeah, no, we're not interested.
That's not in his lexicon anywhere. That's two, okay? We've still got another 6 to come. The next one is the number 30 car from Decane team. John Falb from Las Vegas, United States, and great to see John back at Le Mans. With Jean-Baptiste Simoneau, one of the drivers with the team for the full season in the LMS, as is James Allen, the Australian. Jean-Baptiste Simoneau, pretty quick, lot to learn, but pretty quick. John Falb doesn't have a lot to learn because he's learned all of it. He's won pretty much everywhere, but he's keen to get a good result here. James Allen, I think, is one of the quickest LMP2 drivers in this field, and is often overlooked when people are talking about the potential for drivers to step up to a possible hypercar seat, and I think that's a mistake.
Like Paul Lipschatin was for a number of years.
Yeah. It would not be a surprise to me if there was a left field change somewhere, whether or not it's in hypercar or GTP, and his name appeared in a hypercar or a GTP car. He's that good. We saw it at Le Mans a couple of 3 years ago. Out of nowhere, he was putting in blistering times, and he suddenly seems to have just found that thing within himself to raise his game not 0.5% or 1%, but 5, 6, 7%, winning big races, winning titles, and I think he could be a big factor here in terms of when the big guns get in those cars and we start to see, hammer blows being swung. He's going to be in the mix for that one.
Duquesne as an LMP2 team just seems to keep getting better as well.
They do.
And they were in the fight for the ELMS title last year, and now they've got a driver who won the ELMS title last year in their lineup.
There you go.
I mean, it's great.
Absolutely right. DKR Engineering from Luxembourg, multiple winners in LMP3 titles, the LMS and the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Asian Le Mans Series champions in their first full season in LMP2. New and lovely livery, by the way.
Beautiful.
Orange base livery. Proper art car on that car. They come to Le Mans with the Pro-Am effort around Alexander Matschel, the very affable, lovely guy. Pretty quick as well, Alexander. Older German driver, non-professional, obviously. Alongside him, René Binder. Trying to find the right word for René. He is a good, solid, reliable driver that
doesn't get the credit.
Consistent rather than blindingly quick. Okay, which quite often is what you need in a formula like this. Bang out those laps and sit there in 3rd, 4th, 5th place and not lose ground. Okay, and then you put in the gun, and the gun in this case is the 44 Magnum that is Lawrence Herr, the young, diminutive German.
He's another Uello. He's quick.
I like Lawrence.
Yeah.
I like him a lot.
Great head on him.
He's got edge. Okay, he's not ultimately lovable by everybody. Okay, and he does make mistakes from time to time, which does make it exciting to watch him. Okay, he is every inch the press-on driver, which is fabulous to watch. Unless you're in his team sitting in the garage, in which case it's absolutely terrifying. Because you just don't know which gap he's going to go for next. Unfortunately, we're not going to see Lawrence in the same class as the likes of Milton Jacobsen, but we are going to see him in the same class as Felipe Albuquerque, and that's going to be, and Louis Delatraz.
DKR, is that chassis still the one?
I think
one
it
of them,
is number 5.
The oldest surviving Orica.
I think it is
which
2017.
Last year, I mean, they put so much effort into what they do at DKR Engineering. And if I remember rightly, last year at Le Mans, didn't have a problem literally on the formation lap where the car didn't start.
Oh, you might be right.
And it just wasn't. It just didn't go for him that week. I really hope it turns around because they're a lovely bunch of people. DKR.
Well, Kendi, the team are quality. It could fall their way. They're not, with the exception of Lawrence Herr, that is not a team with 2 drivers that shine out as being they are going to take this race to the rest of them. But they are 2 good, solid, reliable drivers. And the key to this is lead lap, stay out of trouble. Lead lap, stay out of trouble. Lead lap, stay out of trouble. If they can do that, anything's on.
Yep.
Anything's on. And DKR are going to be good in the pits as well. 45, CrowdStrike Racing by APR, the defending winners from last season. Okay.
This line-up, fellas.
Yeah, indeed. Now this one. So George Kurtz, we talked about Ben Keating and him being the yardstick. Well, George Kurtz is one of those guys that fancies a bit of that. And George is an excellent example of someone who's put the hours in to his driving efforts. Obviously successful businessman through the CrowdStrike enterprise that is his business. Huge amount of racing in P2 and in GT3 in particular, and just gets quicker and more consistent and more focused. And we've seen this time and time again with gentleman drivers in LMP cars in particular, Stephen. Not just LMP cars, actually. We're going to be talking about one of the others in just a short while. It will be the bronze drivers to qualify the cars. I expect George Kurtz to be in the mix for that pole position.
Yep.
No doubt about it for me. So George Kurtz anchoring that team. But around him, you've then got Colin Brown. So Colin, another driver of hypercar / GTP quality, without a doubt. I think one of the quickest drivers out there overall at the moment, and a great pairing with George. Asia Le Mans Series winners, of course, taking the fight to the rest in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship with APR's backing. And they've chosen the second of our winning drivers from GTM last year, and unusually in an LMP2 car for Nicky Katzberg. Now, can you remember, because we did look back the last time he drove in a P2 car, but it was a long time ago.
It was. I would need to look back, but it was very brief. He did very briefly drive a P2 car once somewhere. I think it was with Algarve Pro.
I think you're right.
Was it in LMPC?
No.
Something like that? Or?
But either way, it's an unusual ask for Nicky, who won everything in GT cars last year. It was borderline embarrassing for the rest. You know,
he's just so versatile. That's the key.
Won the European. Sorry. So he won WEC Corvette, won Asia Le Mans Series BMW, won the at Le Mans with Corvette, won the class at the Spa 24 Hours in a Mercedes, and won the Nürburgring 24 Hours overall in a Ferrari in 1 year. That is astonishing. Okay, that's a driver of high quality, and we saw in all of that him display both his attacking drive and his defending skills as well. And well, the only unknown here is how good is he in a P2 car?
I have no doubt he's going to be good.
I've no doubt he's going to be good. I'm sure he's been doing plenty of testing. But the only thing I would say is it's not traditionally been a car that people can step into and go quickly, consistently, immediately. So let's bit of hashtag wait and see. But if he has got it, boy oh boy, that is a team to conjure with.
And it's the other one last thing I want to say about this lineup is with Colin Brown, it is because he's not in GTP this year in IMSA after Meyer Shank have ended up focusing on IndyCar, but we believe kind of try and come back to GTP. This is a really good opportunity for him to race in a massive stage and prove himself in a class that features a lot of GTP talent.
Yeah. Well, let's move on with the last three in this. It is Cool Racing's number 47 car. Matt Bell, the British Matt Bell. Naveen Rao, the US-based Indian driver. Those two, by the way, previously IMSA Prototype Challenge champions, I think in 2019. That might be wrong, but they certainly won the title. The year escapes me. And Fred Vesti from Denmark. Matt is going to be press on. Naveen has got quality. This is a big step up for him. Fred Vesti, I think, could show well as well. It's Cool Racing. It's a great team with a well-prepared car. That's beyond doubt. That, though, I think, against the quality of what we've just been talking about, is going to require a little bit of fortune from them in the efforts of others.
100%. But Frederick Vesti, with his single-seater experience, he's one that we've not seen enough of, I think, yet in a LMS LMP2. But I'm glad that he's not just come in just to do his one race, that he's got a little bit of Oracle experience to draw from, because he has got the ability to be able to light up the timing screens a little bit. Okay,
two more to go. It's Panis Racing, the 65 car, prepared this year for the first time by TDS Racing. Matthias Besch has lost nothing in terms of his pace and aggression. That's been a delight to watch in LMP1 and LMP2. Scott Huffaker from the United States is the silver driver there. Rodrigo Sales from the United States. And it's a great team. It's a team that we've seen on the podium at Le Mans more than once, albeit with a different squad in the pit lane. TDS, a team of proper quality. That trio could just be dark horses for something here.
I mean, you'd certainly think that if the race fell their way, that a top 5 spot in the class is certainly a possibility. If they can have a steady race and not getting involved in the tussling up front, I don't expect this trio to be battling top 2 or 3. But it wouldn't be a surprise to anybody, would it, if it just became an absolute barn burner at the front and we had some mistakes and errors and contact. And they'd be right there, I'm sure. Well,
you're talking about mistakes in contact and front row efforts. We finished this class and with the 183 car. 183 because the 83 is taken, of course, by a hypercar this year. It is the team built around Francois Perraudot. That uncharacteristic clash with a Corvette from a couple of years back. That rather unfairly, I think, colours his efforts in the eyes of some. But Francois, make no mistake, is a gentleman driver of extremely high quality, and that's proved by the quality of the efforts he continues to bring to the track and the titles that he takes home from the track. So he's the bronze driver alongside Ben Barnicoat, who, I'll say this out loud, I wouldn't be remotely surprised at some point reasonably soon to see Ben Barnicoat getting a call up for the Toyota Hypercar squad. I wouldn't be remotely surprised to see it. He's that good.
I'd love to see it. I think he's been, what he's been able to achieve just in his IMSA GTD program alone with Vassar Sullivan in a car that has no business winning races and titles has been nothing short of astonishing.
Yeah.
But last year didn't win the LMP2 Pro-Am title because he didn't do every race, if I'm rightly. But he was a big part of that effort, particularly at the very end of the season in the 83.
And that's rewarded with this run, and he's joined in the car by the third of our winners in GTM here last year, Nico Veroni from Argentina. The tall, gangly, you might say, young Argentinian. What a talent he is.
Yeah, everything he touched turns to purple timing screens. It's just, he's been so much fun to watch. He's such a lovely person as well. He's got everything you need to shine in any form of sports car racing, but particularly in a class like this in P2 Pro-Am where you've got to work well with bronze. He proved last year with what he was able to produce under pressure from what Corvette and Ben Keating had high expectations for that effort. He came in with not a lot of experience and proved that he could deliver time and time again. And crucially at Le Mans, lest we forget, they won the race, but he made a big error before that race. Had that big off, didn't he, before the race in practice, I think it was, which would have shaken him, but he didn't let that in any way affect his ability to just switch off, switch on again, and just go.
Well, the next question. That is quite the 8, and that is LMP2 Pro-Am. Remember, they're the 8 cars with a bronze driver aboard. Give me your 1, 2, 3.
Really hard. You could almost say this is the hardest class to pick.
You're right.
And actually, now we've gone through it car by car, this is so exciting. This really is an exciting battle. For me, I'm going to go with... I can't look past the 23 for the win.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a car that is good enough to feature in the overall P2 ranks. I'm going to go 23. I'm going to go 183 because it just seems that, unless something drastic happens, Francois Perodo and his merry band of AF Corsa workers are always up there. So 183 second, and then I think the 14 on the podium. I think PJ Hyatt's doing well enough in a P2 car now that I can see him breaking through and having a really good race.
It is, for me, it's a battle between the 4 of them. You've mentioned 3 of them. The one you didn't mention amongst the 4 is the 45. I'm going to go for the 23 for the win. 45 for second, I think. And then I think it's going to be a battle between the 183 and the 14. And I think I'm going to go for the 183. But it does go to show, doesn't it? That's quality and depth. 8-car field, and we've got 4 battling, we think, for podium positions on pace alone. That's without luck coming into it. And this is Le Mans. Luck's always a part of it. That is LMP2 Pro-Am. And we're already 42 minutes deep into this. And we've still got 23 cars to talk about in LM GT3. Very different formula to that which we expected, Stephen, with the energy management being just a key part of this. If you're watching trackside or on TV, get used to the fact that the stint lengths in LM GT3 are going to be much shorter, something like 15 minutes shorter than the GTM stints we've been used to. We're not going to even start to sniff towards BOP in this class because we'll find out when we're there. It's a straight answer. It is very different indeed from what we expected. The depth and the quality in the teams and the cars is undoubtedly there. We've got a number of teams and drivers that are still evolving their relationship and their understanding of this very different formula. I think the best way to deal with this one is to sort of go through in vaguely numerical order, which will help us with the classes. Let's start with Aston Martin. There are 2 Aston Martins in the field, and they bookend the numerical order. The 27 from Harter Racing Team, the 777 from D-Station, both supported by ProDrive. It's Ian James, Daniel Mancinelli, Alex Riberas in the 27 car, and it is Owen Bastard Satoshi Ashino and Marco Sorensen. So Satoshi stepping in to the car for this race from Clement Mathieu, who would be the normal full season racer. The new Aston Martin looks good.
Yep.
I think will suit this track without a shadow of a doubt. Ian James, a very strong bronze driver indeed. Heart of Racing, of course, ramping up for their hypercar efforts next season. D-Station Racing with Satoshi Ashino stepping in on this occasion, with Marco Sorensen, who has won this race previously. What do we think for Aston Martin?
I have really high hopes for the Aston Martin in this race. We've seen signs of what this car can do. Last weekend we saw it deliver its first ever win globally, D-Station being the team that did it in Super GT GT300. None of the drivers involved in that effort in Japan are here for Le Mans, but the team will surely be high in confidence and knowing what they can get out of that car. For me, the Heart of Racing lineup is the one. Ian James is a quality bronze. Daniel Mancinelli and Alex Ribeiro are really good pros with him as well. I'm expecting them to be in the fight for the win here, genuinely.
Okay. BMW had terrible luck last time out. Both their cars wiped out in accidents that were not of their making. The 46 car with the impact to the rear of Phil Hansen's Jota car, punching him into the 46 that put them into the barrier. Unfortunately, it was the WRT hypercar that did that. And then later, Sean Galale, the absolute innocent victim of the mistake from Earl Bamber and the Kemmel Straits, wiped them both out. But two things to say about them. One is we saw how good they were at Imola. And two is they've got rid of the terrible liveries for this. We've got the
they look superb, the new ones. They look
the
superb.
31 car in a tribute livery to the UFO BMW CSL from 1977, I think it was. And the 46 back into a more appropriate livery for the car that, of course, we'll see Valentino Rossi in his Le Mans 24 Hours debut. Valentino, though, of course, a winner here last year in the Road to Le Mans, winner and second in the Road to Le Mans, in a not dissimilar car.
Yep, and for me, the BMW M4 GT3 is a really high quality GT3 car. It just is so versatile. It seems to be quick no matter where it races. And yeah, the WRT LMGT3 effort seems to be far more ready to go and fight for a championship and fight for massive wins than the hypercar one. And they proved that, didn't they, at Imola? So yeah, I mean, the 31 Gusto Farfus, Sean Galale and Darren Leung is a quality car. Farfus seems to be really on top of his game at the moment.
Fired up.
Yeah, Sean Galale certainly fired up. He was at Imola. Darren Leung is a bronze driver that if anyone hasn't seen much of him because they've not followed his progress in British GT, he is so motivated. I know from conversations I've had with him just how much effort he's putting in behind the scenes to make sure he's ready, particularly for this race. It's his first Le Mans.
Taking weight off. Darren's the first to say that he's got a weight disadvantage. He's a big guy.
He's a rugby player who also plays American football. He's not a small guy.
No, he'd snap me in half.
Yeah, well, yeah. So better say nice things about him on that case. But yeah,
he will snap me in half.
He's got the perfect mindset for this, and I expect if his head's in the right place, he'll be good. And then you've got the 46 with Rossi, the headline name in that car, along with Maxime Martin, who needs no introduction as a factory driver, and Ahmed Al-Hati, who is just a really steady bronze driver, so enthusiastic.
But his speed is coming.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Ahmed, we've seen him in LMP2 in the Asia Le Mans series and put cars on pole position. But his speed appears to be coming here, and he is beginning to be one of the guys emerging from the pack. We lost Ben Keating after last year. He's one of the guys emerging from the pack and beginning to punch in that lead group in qualifying in the F1 World Endurance Championship.
The thing is, he's got a different level of pressure as a bronze driver that the others don't, which is, as a bronze driver, to be put in a car run by WT in the first place, but in a car with Valentino Rossi in, just brings that added layer of pressure.
Yeah.
Because all eyes are on that car from fans around the world, and to be trusted to be the bronze in that car is something that he doesn't take lightly.
No, indeed. Next make-up is going to be Ford. Ford back at Le Mans in GT with the Mustang. There are 3 cars here, 2 from the FI World Endurance Championship and 1 as an invitational entry, all fielded by Proton Competition. The first, numerically, is the invitational car. John Hartshorn, British driver, in his 60s down. This, believe John is making it very clear, is his last appearance at Le Mans. It'll be his 4th. And it's been 3 different British makes with TVR, Lotus and Aston Martin, and now of course in the Ford Mustang, which
basically British, Dagenham and all that.
Yeah. But I think actually built in the UK, this car. Maybe it's built in Canada. Canadian will tell me immediately.
Canada's basically Britain anyway.
It's sort of, isn't it?
Yeah, just
Ben
more
Tuck
bears.
from the UK and Chris Meese. And Ben and Chris Meese with their Le Mans debuts. And Christopher Meese...
It's amazing that Chris...
It's just... because Chris was never part of the LMP programme for Audi, and because GT3 is only now becoming eligible, Chris now, of course, a Ford factory driver. What do we think? Well, John is steady, okay? I can't remember the last time there was an accident that John Hartshorn actually caused. It is fair to say he is not the quickest. I don't think he's quite the slowest, is the straight answer. But he will know that the job here is to keep this car on the lead lap.
What can you tell us about Ben Tuck? Because he's a name that we're seeing in the ELMS are sort of starting to see the green shoots of what he's capable of, and he does some work. He gets mentored by Ollie Gavin, doesn't he? Tell me about what his potential is.
I think he's got great potential. I think he's still got pace to unlock. We've seen him involved in some fantastic fights over the last year or two in what's been an introduction into sports car racing at this level for them. There's one headline mistake at the Yas Marina in the Asian Le Mans series that will colour his efforts for somebody. It shouldn't. It was a mistake. It's as simple as that. But he knows he can't make those kinds of mistakes here. This is the biggest race. It's a place that punishes problems for others, and I think you'll start to see this young man mature here. That's the 44 car. Don't expect to see that car at the sharp end of this race, but do expect to see the car showing some pace. With the changes to the Mustang, you can talk about those in a moment as we get on to talking about the 2 WEC cars. We should see that car being significantly more reliable in terms of its ability to take a hit. 77 car is the first of the 2 WC cars. That's for Ben Barker. If you get a chance to look at Ben's new helmet for Le Mans, it is spectacular. Ryan Hardwick, European Le Mans Series champion last year with Zach Rebichon with Proton and the Porsche. They complete the number 77 car. That's the sky blue car. And the 88 car for Dennis Olsen, ex-Porsche factory driver, now of course with Ford. Mikkel Pedersen and Giorgio Roda is the bronze driver. Tell us a little bit about the changes to the Ford, and tell us a little bit about the prospects of the Mustang.
Yeah, so safe to say that the start to life of the Mustang, while the pace was occasionally there, the problem they had was with the rear end, with the boot lid and the split, the diffuser just kept coming detached during races. It was very fragile. They have made a erratum fix as part of the early homologation period for the car. They had it in time for Spa and Long Beach earlier on in the season, and I think it's safe to say that has made an immediate improvement to that car. And all of a sudden, it's gone from a prospect where a team like Proton would have to approach the Le Mans 24 Hours as a stay off the curb, stay out of trouble, just do whatever you can to protect the car. Now they can look at this race and think, actually, we can give this a go and we can throw the kitchen sink out of it, because we're not worried about having to come in and replace parts of the bodywork frequently during the track action. So I think it's all eyes on Ford for what that car can achieve now. It's definitely on the up as a GT3 car, and Proton have been racing it all over the place, and not just in WEC but in the LMS and in World Challenge Europe. They've got a lot of experience with it now, and I think we could really start to see for the first time just what this car can do.
Okay, let's move on to Ferrari. And Ferrari, I think I'm right with 5 cars on the order. My apologies. The first 2, which numerically are the 2 Vista AF Corsa cars for the WC. Francesco Castellacci, Thomas Fleur, Davide Rigon in the 54. The 55 for Francois Rio, Simon Mann and Alessio Rivera. Starting to see what this car is capable of in the WC. It's been there and thereabouts. Amongst the 2 bronze drivers, Francois Heriot, he's been pretty rapid in the last race or so. Thomas Fleur seems to get stronger the older he gets, Thomas. It's his VistaJet concern, the business jet concern, that is the title sponsor for both. The silver drivers, Francesco Castellacci and Simon Mann, 54 and 55 respectively. Davide Rigon and Alessio Rivera are the Ferrari factory drivers in those 2 cars. They're going to be in the mix, no doubt about it. Not expecting them to burst out and lead comprehensively, but I struggle to see them being also runs. I think they're going to be in the pack here.
Oh, yeah, 100%, because the 296 GT3 is a superb bit of kit. It's a car that you can have a problem with bringing into the pits and change the entire rear end in a pit stop and lose precious time.
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely right.
It's a car that you'd want if you're going to pick a car for a 24-hour race like this one, where it is a sprint race. It's reliable, it's fast, and you've got to say, yeah, the driver lineups in both Vista AF Corsa cars have been not outright gunning for wins, but have been right there.
54 in particular, what we've seen is Davide Rigon chasing down the pack at the end of the race, and capable of doing that. That's going to be one to watch, because of course this is 4 times longer than a normal WC race. The next of the Ferraris is 66 from JMW Motorsport, continuing a long story for JMW Motorsport at the Le Mans 24 Hours into a new era and a new car. Their 4th different Ferrari at the Le Mans 24 Hours after the 430, 458 and 488, of course, and taking a win in GTM with the 488 on its debut. Giacomo Petrobelli, Larry Tinvord and Sally Jolic. It's something of a mix and match squad, but all 3 drivers of quality.
Oh, 100%. JMW over the years have come to Le Mans with a real variety of driver lineups. Sometimes it's been more completely guided on commercial, and sometimes they've been able to pick and choose some real talent. And this year, they've got a really nice lineup there. Sally Jolic is real quality. We've seen that in a P2 car in particular recently. Larry Tenhorder, with the stuff he's been able to produce in single-make Porsche racing, I'm really excited to see what he can do in the 296. Are you?
Yeah, I think so. Sally Jolic, for Sally, now, of course, a silver driver, and is racing a 296 in the GT World Challenge Sprint Cup this year, should be very familiar with the package. A lot is going to come down to JMW having unpicked the equation for LMGT3, because it's not been an easy transition for very many teams.
No.
But if they can do that, I think they've got 3 drivers there capable of providing the pace. It's what else can they bring to this very team sport indeed. 4th car, it's another XWC car, GR Racing, the 86, for Ricardo Pera, Daniel Serra and Mike Wainwright. All of a sudden, GR Racing look like potential winners in the LMS. This car suits Mike Wainwright, okay?
It really
suits the team, and from a position where they came into this programme disappointed that they were no longer going to be in the Porsche RSR and in the WEC, they've got their dander up.
Yeah, they really do. Mike Wainwright, there's something to be said for the fact that he's pressed on for so long racing in the GTE formula, which, because it doesn't have the driver aids, or didn't have the driver aids, when you come from that to them racing in GT3, there's somewhat of an advantage to try and get used to it, because all of a sudden
it's easier.
You're able to extract pace out of it better. And so the uptick in form we've seen from GR, not just in the LMS, but they had some moments, didn't they, in Asian Le Mans Series over the winter, is not just because of the other drivers in the car. It's not all been Pera and Serra. Mike has really improved. He looks fantastic.
Now, Ricardo Perez has been pressing me this season in that car. Daniel Serra's just quality. He is a Porsche factory driver, and deservedly so.
And a Le Mans winner.
For two different manufacturers, Aston Martin and for Ferrari. So that's the fourth. The fifth car is the 155. It would regularly have been the 55, and this is a switch-off driver squad. It was meant to be built around Duncan Cameron with Matt Griffin and David Perel, but that squad was replaced by Johnny and Conrad Lausen, father and son from Denmark, normally race for their own Formula Racing team, joined rather remarkably by Jordan Taylor.
Yeah, you wouldn't have picked him, would you, if you just said, right, who are Johnny and Conrad Larson going to pick as their pro?
And the story behind it is so utterly random. It's so utterly random. It lost the mist of time now. Johnny Larson, back in the day. By the way, Johnny deserves credit for another driver that we've already talked about in the earlier show, which is it was and remains a sponsor of Nicholas Nielsen's career. Without Johnny Larson's efforts behind him, we wouldn't have seen Nicholas Nielsen emerge in the way that we actually did. Conrad Larson picking up pace, more particularly, maybe calming down a little bit, maybe understanding that this is not about winning the race at every corner, and bedding in and understanding that it does require consistent pace. Jordan is going to be an interesting one. I don't think Jordan Taylor's driven a GT3 car competitively since 2017.
Wasn't it World Challenge in a Cadillac?
He's won Sprint X Endurance in a Cadillac. It was the last time he did it. I'm going to be really interested to see just exactly what he gets out of this car. I'd be particularly interested in what he thinks of the formula.
He's going to be really relaxed.
I think so. No pressure here. No pressure here. So that's Ferrari. Next up is the return to Le Mans for the first time since 1998 from McLaren. Now, here's an emerging story. 3 McLarens in this field, 2 from United Autosports. They are the full-season WEC cars, and 1 from Inception Racing. Let's deal with Inception first. Brendan Arieb, Ollie Milroy, Frederick Schlandorf. This car was the car that went so very well at the Rolex 24, shunted, was brought back, rebuilt to be their LMGT3 car. So this is the first time this car has raced since. They've got other McLarens on board. It is a car run out of Yorkshire, but not with United Autosports. Brendan Arieb, quick, solid, gentleman driver. Ollie Milroy, quick silver driver. Frederick Schlandorf, quality factory driver. Nothing not to like about this effort.
No, not at all. It's quality top to bottom, and they do really run cars well at Inception Racing, don't they?
It's the Optimum guys. The Optimum Motorsport guys also will feel as if they have something to prove, because they were one of 3 teams in the mix for potentially getting the WEC deal and didn't. And they, rather remarkably, are just the other side of Wakefield from United Autosports, who field the other 2 cars. A 59 car and the 95 car. 59, of course, a mark of the number of McLaren F1 that actually took the overall win at Le Mans in 1995. That car for Nico Costa from Brazil, James Cottingham and Greg Wasowski. The 95 car for Hiroshi Hamaguchi here is stepping in. No Josh Cagle here. Nico Pino from Chile and Marino Sato. Boy, did we see a turnaround for this team last time out.
Yes, it's no secret that this programme came together late. They weren't able to test as much as they'd like, and even when they did, that was disrupted somewhat. I mean, remember they turned up at Dubai and it rained. Of course it did, thanks cloud seeding. So they've had the mountain to climb with getting used to not only the LMGT3 formula like every other team, but a brand new car and a set of new drivers. And I tell you what, they've really made some strides. Like you say, by the time we got through Spa, they'd gone from a point where at Qatar, I wouldn't say they looked lost, but they looked like a team that really did need some more time with their product. But by the time we got to Spa, all of a sudden they were in the mix. Had an amazing run in qualifying. Unfortunately, the tiniest bit overweight possible, didn't they? And got pinged for that. But in the race, the cars were there on pace. And I think in a couple of months, they've gone from having their expectations of Le Mans being let's just see what we can get out of this. Nice haul of points would be good. To actually, we might be able to contend with this.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what Hiroshi Yamaguchi does. He's a good bronze driver. As I say, in here, he does race in the European Le Mans Series in a Lamborghini. Pretty evenly matched the two cars. Work to do in drawing the pace out of the package at all levels of this, whether or not that be bronze, silver or gold. But the signs are that they are making progress, and boy, wouldn't this be a great place to show it.
Yes, and over the years, McLaren with its GT3 programme, we've often seen that, whether it be the 12C or the 650S, and now from the 720S, and now it's dubbed the McLaren GT3 Evo, they've picked up amazing results in places and won championships all over the world, but we're yet to really see a McLaren GT3 car take a massive landmark win at a 24-hour race. Wouldn't it be great for it to be here on the return?
Amazing, and they sit on the cusp of the 30-year anniversary. 30 years since they won. That makes me feel very old.
So long ago, do you even remember it, Graham?
I do remember it. I remember it very well indeed. It was my first Le Mans, and I remember getting absolutely drenched. But because it always rains at Le Mans. Lamborghini next up. Two cars for them in this order. It is the two cars from Iron Lynx. One under the Iron Lynx moniker, the other, of course, the Iron Dames. 60 car in a new day-night livery, by the way, for them on 24 hours. That's yellow at the top and black at the bottom. Matteo Cressoni, Frank Pereira and Claudio Schiavone. Claudio, again, as we said more than once before, not the quickest bronze driver in this order, but getting great service from Matteo Cressoni and Frank Pereira. Claudio, loving this car, beginning to understand a bit more about it, and will unlock a little bit more of his pace and consistency as he does so. But again, if he can keep that pace up and consistent, he's got two drivers alongside him there that are capable of taking the fight back to people. The big advantage, of course, at Le Mans with a longer lap is you're not losing laps as quickly. It's so simple so much more difficult rather, to fight back when you're in that situation where the bronze has fallen off the back of the pack and then swallowed up by the hypercar order, and that just drops them back further, and all of a sudden you're in a fight to stay on the lead
One
lap.
thing we've not talked about yet with LMGT3 is going to be the tyre strategy is going to have a different look to it, and it's going to be about how teams manage what tyres that their bronzes are on, how long their stints are going to be on older tyres, because we are going to see, according to our friends at Goodyear, for the first time, if the conditions are right, the ability to start quad stinting these tyres, because it's not a very aggressive track, the Circuit de la Sarthe. So you're going to see variations throughout this race of some teams thinking we can stretch the envelope and go for 4 stints on a set of tyres, try and save time in the pits. You're going to see some that are going to be a bit more conservative. And your bronze driver is going to play a big part in that. Can they continue to drive through really difficult conditions with old tyres? If they can, then we might see a team like an Iron Lynx be able to suddenly be in a fight.
Absolutely. The Lamborghini has been very sensitive to changes with its aerodynamic package as part of the POP package. The rear wing in particular killed them at Qatar, but they've been back amongst it, and none more so than the Iron Dames, the 85 car. Sarah Bovey, Michelle Gattinger, Rahel Fry stepping in for Dorian Pan, who's injured her ribs, unfortunately, will step away from the effort for the remainder of the season now. But the Iron Dames, whether or not you put them in a GT3 Porsche, a GTE Porsche, a GT3 Ferrari, a GTE Ferrari, or in this case now a GT3 and an LMGT3 Lamborghini, capable of taking the fight to the rest. And the only thing that seems to hold them back is just the most dreadful luck.
Oh, this year in particular has just been one thing after the other, hasn't it?
Wheel nuts. The wheel nuts. There's a joke somewhere I'm not going to tell about nuts, but I mean, but the reality is it's cost them probably 2 race wins. One in the European Le Mans Series in the Porsche, and last time out in the Lamborghini at Spa in the WEC. And you could see it writ on their faces just how much that means to them.
Yeah, 100%. And then at Imola, where they look strong on pace again, they had caught up in a crash at the start of the race and retired. So it's just They are another team, and I think we've spoken about this earlier on, talking about some of the contenders in hypercar from Ganassi. They are going to be so desperate for things to turn around.
I think, look, we could debate whether or not Sarah Bovey is a legitimate bronze until the cows come home. She is an FI bronze at this point. 2 years now on appeal that has been reversed, so back to bronze for Sarah Bovey, but impressive stuff from her. Rahel Fry went from gold to silver, and I think correctly. But you know what? She's bounced back and her pace is back to where it really needs to be. And she's looking very fighty indeed. And Michelle Gatting is just relishing getting into the fight. What she needs is to be in that fight and not...
pulling off to the end of a pit lane because the wheel nut's stuck between the brake caliper. Yeah.
We'll come to the 1, 2, 3, but I can tell you right now those three are going to be in anybody's reckoning for who might well be there. That's Lamborghini. Next up is Corvette. So it's the new Z06 GT3R, which has had a troubled start to its season, but it's beginning to find pace and reliability. It's TF Sport from the UK, switched over from their Aston Martin programmes to Corvette, the 81, the 82. 81 for Rui Andrade from Angola, Charlie Eastwood from Ireland, and Tom van Rompuy, the bronze driver from Belgium. And then in the 82, Sebastian Beau from France, Daniel Juncadella from Spain, and Hiroshi Kazumi from Japan. We saw Tom van Rompuy put the car on pole at Qatar. That was a high point for the team. They're showing signs that the pace is coming a little bit more, but this has been a tricky year, start to the year for the new Corvette.
Yeah, you've got a team like TF Sport, which is quality, but they are having to not only get used to a new Formula in LMGT3, they're having to essentially do some of the development work to a brand new car. And that is never going to be an easy thing in a field like this with teams as high quality as this on the entry list alongside them. But yeah, I think it's safe to say that they surprised even themselves with what they were able to achieve in qualifying at Qatar. And since then, it's been a bit of a battle to get good results out of it. But we're seeing race by race. In a similar way to United, they're taking steps every time they use the car and they get the car out. And they've also done a lot of testing in recent months since the season started in Qatar, and that has helped them a lot.
Yeah, Rui Andrade is going to be adapting to a GT car. Sebastian Beau stepping up quite significantly. I'm less aware of Sebastian's efforts in the Ligier European Series. The two bronze drivers, Tom van Rompuy, has got pace. His dad, by the way, will be racing at Le Mans this year on Friday in the Fun Cup.
Fantastic.
In one of the VWs. Hiroshi Kazumi, lots to learn for Hiroshi, but he's going about that in a very measured way with the assistance of his radio translator, none other than Taki Inui.
Fantastic.
Also, by the way, Marino Sato's manager. The two factory drivers here, Charlie Eastwood deservedly gets a factory seat with Corvette this year, and Daniel Juncadella, rather unusually, factory driver for both Corvette and Mercedes-AMG this year. Whether or not we see it here, we're going to see this steadily climb up the order without a shadow of a doubt. We've already seen it with United Autosport and the McLaren. That's a more proven platform. We're going to see it as they start to understand more about this car and they start to iron out the bugs, and there's been too many of them for the Corvette this early.
One thing we know about Corvettes is they generally always go well at Le Mans, and TF Sport, as we know from the selection process that took place behind the scenes at Corvette Racing when they were working out who was going to be the custodians racing representing them in WC and at Le Mans going forward as the factory team steps back. They're good enough, aren't they?
But you say they always won it well. I mean, Ollie Gavin's only won it 5. He was there for almost 20 years and he won it 5 times.
Was it only 20? I thought he was there for 40 years, wasn't
it?
it?
It just felt like that.
Yeah, it's a bit of like an Henri Pescarolo, just kind of there.
And
just
there and keeps being there. Keeps being there. But
Yeah.
anyway, there you go. Putting that one aside, that is Chevy. I actually missed, numerically, the first of the Lexus. A Codius ASP, the Lexus RCF GT3, the 78 car and the 87 car. Again, two full season WEC cars. 78 in the hands of Timo Boguslavski, who will be back in the seats after missing the last race. Arno Rabanne and Kelvin van der Linde. In the 87 is Takeshi Kimura, car guy. Jose Maria Lopez, Petito Lopez stepping down from the hypercar of Toyota, and Esteban Masson. These two cars, by the way, will be in the two most recent edition garages, the garages we've regularly seen United Autosports, and will be next door to Toyota. The first cars at Pit Inn this year. Desperately poor efforts, I'm afraid, from the cars in the first two races, and all of a sudden at Spa, it came alight.
Yes, yeah, we've definitely seen green shoots now. I mean, ASP are a fantastic, long-established team. And yeah, it's safe to say that the RCF GT3 is not the most customer team friendly of cars, but once you get your head around it, you can unlock real pace. And it has taken them a little bit of time, but yeah, at Spa they did look better. Bizarrely, in the weekend that Arnold Robin was having to race with two brand new teammates, that car all of a sudden looked quicker, and it's nothing to do with the ability of Kelvin van der Linde or Timo Bogus.
Completely forgot about Kelvin wasn't there, was he?
Yeah, no, so Kelvin wasn't there because he was on Formula E duty, and Timo Boguslawski, he missed it because he was ill.
Yep.
Yeah, he was unwell. So Arnold Robin is a good bronze. He's a really steady hand and very intelligent. And Kelvin van der Linde is just a top quality GT3 driver.
And both Kelvin and Timo are going to be Le Mans debutants this year, I believe. In the 87 car, I'm trying to think, Masson is the only one of the three that is going to be the debutant there. Something about that package suggests it could be better at Le Mans. It's a big,
thundering
powerful
freight train of a car, isn't it?
You can see that thing just growling down the Mulsanne at remarkable pace. Don't count it out. And worth saying, by the way, we mentioned earlier Valentino Rossi winning here last year in the Road to Le Mans race. Well, he won alongside the bronze driver that was placed with him for that race, and that was Jerome Policon, who's the team principal and team owner of Acodius ASP. Leaves us with just one make to mention, and there are only two of this make, and that is the first in decades. Two Porsches in the GT class here.
I was going to say, I can't remember a time when it wasn't like 5 or 6 minimum.
It's a long, long time. Both fielded by Monti. The Monti EMA 91 car for Richard Leitz, Maurice Schuring and Yasser Shaheen, and the 92 car, Monti Pure Racing, for Klaus Bachler. So both the pros are Austrians, Alex Malikin and Jules Sturm. And both of these cars have pretty much lit up the FI World Endurance Championship this year. Talk first about the EMA effort. Yasser Shaheen from Australia, part of the family that owns the Ben Motorsport Park just outside Adelaide. Maurice Schuring, young driver, the silver there. Richard Leitz, one of the most experienced men in this field. Still funny, despite himself. He doesn't think he's funny, but he is funny. But Richard, still capable of blistering pace. Klaus Bachler, a man that kind of fell out of favour with Porsche a little while ago, for whatever reason, probably just had too many drivers and had forgotten his phone number. But Klaus Bach, and seizing the opportunity that this pure racing effort is offering to him with a real focused leader behind the pure racing effort. Alex Malikin, we talked about Sarah Bovi. There are going to be calls deep into this year asking whether or not Alex Malikin is a legitimate bronze driver, but at the moment he is, and boy is he enjoying himself. Jules Sturm, the rapid German silver driver in this lot. The 91 squad have had a bit of a topsy-turvy time, but cracking result at Spa.
Yeah, I mean, that they really turned the corner, and all of a sudden you start to think they can kick on now and challenge almost certainly the 92 car for the title. I mean, across the board, you've got to say the Manthey guys with the two cars, that is a really, really strong pair of trios that they've got. You just can't really pick holes in them, can you? I mean, but for me, the team to beat is going to be the Pure Racing 92. It just seems no matter what you throw at them, they seem to just be able to plough through it. And Spa didn't go their way, did it? But we know
on the very last lap.
Yeah, but on their day,
short of energy.
Yeah, it was remarkable, wasn't it, to see the end to that race. But Yeah, what can you say about that effort? Edgar, who runs that team, is just the most competitive man I think I've ever met. He's just the most confident.
Takes literally no prisoners.
Yeah. Because lest we forget, so there's a story to tell here. It's like just before the race, obviously at Spa, they had the big shunt, didn't they?
They did. Huge
at Spa for Malikin at Radion. And it didn't look great, did it? Because that car was in serious state. So they got a new car, which was one of the Grellos. It was one of the Grello Manti cars shipped in for the race. And I was messaging Edgar after the incident, asking principally how Alex was and whether he was okay, and he was, thankfully, just bruised. And I was just sort of saying, best of luck for tomorrow. I hope it goes okay. And he's like, oh no, we're still going to win this. It's like, wow, okay, and they came half a lap away.
So close.
Half a lap.
So look, that's the quick run through. I'm going to give you a moment to draw breath, and we're going to try for a 1, 2, 3. It is so difficult because there's so many unknowns in this. This is a brand new formula at a track they've never raced at before, and that's the thing about a brand new formula, and particularly in a balanced performance class, is it can show up some real strengths in cars that nowhere else finds. We've got so much full throttle here. But then you've got, some rinky-dink places where you can make up time. You've got the Porsche curves where if you've got a car hooked up and the power band is working for you, the aero's working for you, there's time to be made up there as well. What do we think amongst this little lot?
I don't know. And like you say, the other thing is there's just not a lot of GT3 data around Le Mans, is there? No. So really, for half these cars, they're starting from zero.
It's almost like you're asking me, can we not do this, Graham? Yes, we're going to do it. So, so hashtag get on with it.
Okay, I mean...
okay, let's try it this way.
Go on.
Who do you think's going to win?
92.
I have a feeling...
I just have a feeling the freight train's going to roll on, Graham.
I have a feeling we might have a dream race for the Iron Dames. So that's
you're going Iron Dames.
That's what about second?
Heart of Racing.
That's a great call. I'm going to go for the 46 Team WRT.
Oh, wouldn't that be a popular result? Wouldn't that?
Imagine Rossi and the girls on the podium.
Could you genuinely imagine Le Mans 24 Hours if Ferrari won overall and Rossi was in contention for a win in GT3?
Won it off.
Well, I mean, you'd be able to see the flares and fireworks from space.
Okay, so the third car. It's a cracking question, isn't it?
It's really hard, Graham. I'm going to go for 59 United. I'm going to go a bit of James Cottingham action with Nicola Costa and Gregoire Salsi pulling a punch.
I'm torn between the Heart of Racing car, between the second Team WRT car, I think you're right, the 59 looks slightly the stronger of those two. Inception and GR Racing. Because they've looked strong. And you know what?
You could go GR, aren't you?
No. Oh. I'm going to go Heart of Racing. But we saw, for the first time at Spa, up to the red flag, some of the potential that LMGT3's got. It's beginning to light up. Okay? We've not seen it the first two races. First two races, I'll be blunt, did not catch my attention in terms of quality racing.
And they didn't get a lot of airtime as a result.
No, indeed. I think this race could be different. I think this race... This is going to give our production team a real headache.
Well, where are you going to look? I mean, because even if it was a two-class race, I think there's a potential for this to be just trains of cars battling each other, especially in the early hours. And then you throw in P2 in the mix with some of the hot talent in that.
We're an hour and 22 minutes into this, and I'm going to just wrap it up by saying this. The Le Mans 24 Hours, it's the biggest race in the world. It's one of the best events in the world. We look forward to it as sports fans every year. We look forward in horror as professionals because it is a gruelling week. Without a shadow of a doubt. But I'm coming into this one, Stephen Kilbey, genuinely excited for the prospects of what we're going to see on track.
Yeah, me too. It is an event that, whether you're in the press room or in the paddock or in the campsites, takes everything out of you, but in the best possible way. And for me, there is nothing like it in motorsport than the build up to the start of that race, when they're on the formation lap and they start playing the music over the tannoy, and you think, here we go, it's that time of year again. We've got 24 hours of pure exhilaration to come, and it gets me every time. I get goosebumps and I feel nervous
and
every time.
Then you complain about it.
And then I complain about it for 23 hours and 59 minutes. And then
So look, if you're going to be trackside, enjoy every moment. If you're not going to be trackside and you're just either watching it or listening to it yourself or with friends, enjoy it. We certainly be enjoying it. You can keep up to date with absolutely everything that's going on before the action, during the action and after the action, through mine and particularly Stephen and the team that we're putting on board this year at the Le Mans 24 Hours on Daily Sports Car. Stephen's efforts on racer.com as well. There'll be, I'm sure, some more podcast comment here. If you're trackside, then please do listen in to our colleagues at Radio Le Mans on site. If you're not trackside, then I heartily recommend the team we've got this year on the Le Mans 24 Hours app. That'll be Martin Haven, myself and Ant Davidson, the regular WCTV trio, plus Bruce Shuani on pit lane. And then the additions this year will be David Addison as our additional lead commentator, Peter Dumbreck, Rob Bell from McLaren bringing his GT3 experience here, and delighted to say that Lou Beckett will be joining Bruce on pit lane as well. That is the LMGT3 efforts. We'll be also with you on Eurosports up to the race. They've got their own commentary team for the race proper this year. Enjoy it. It's going to be a year to savour, I've no doubt whatsoever about that. There's going to be 300,000 plus people trackside to enjoy it, and millions of you listening in elsewhere. For now, we'll say thank you to Pfaff Motorsports, my apologies, Pfaff Technologies, to the Justice Brothers, and to TorontoMotorsports.com. This has been Twisk, the part 2 of our Le Mans preview, part of the Marshall Pruitt podcast. # let's do this, let's go racing. The Le Mans 24 Hours is upon us.